Ladies and gentlemen, we will be opening this hearing in a few moments. This briefing, which will then be followed by the official hearing of this subcommittee. And I'm Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, Chairman of the Subcommittee on Investigation Oversight. In the early hours of Friday, April 8th, units of the Iraqi Army, numbering about 2,500 and including armored vehicles, assaulted Iranian civilians at Camp Ashraf, murdering at least 34 residents and wounding hundreds more. These were unarmed people being shot down by full-time, professional, well-armed troops. I believe this was an atrocity, a massacre, perhaps a crime against humanity. One of the civilians who was wounded in the attack, a young lady named Ilham Nadu Zanjarpour, will brief us by video conference from Camp Ashraf in Iraq. Nada is a Canadian citizen and has lived in Camp Ashraf since 1999. Her mother is with us today, and we welcome her mother. And if you would today, and thank you very much. It's Ilham Nadu Zanjarpour. Can you hear us?
Yes, hello.
And could you describe for us what you personally saw during this attack?
It was about 7 in the morning when I heard gunshots, explosions. I went to one of the main streets and I suddenly saw Iraqi forces who had entered Camp Ashraf by force. They had entered with their tanks, their Humvees. They had snipers, grenade launchers, and Iraqi forces came in and started shooting. I personally, I was there. I asked them, "What are you doing? Why are you here?" And it was then that I was targeted by Iraqi men who threw a grenade, which exploded between my legs. It destroyed the muscles in both of my legs, as you saw in the video prior to I'm speaking. It destroyed the muscles in my arms. Right now, my left arm, the nerves and tendon is destroyed, is damaged. My right arm, the muscles were torn apart. Right now, my left wrist is broken, also a part of my hand. My right elbow is also broken. And these are the shells, parts of the shells that was taken out from my legs and arms due to the grenade explosion. During the attack, Iraqi forces specifically would target one of the civilians. For example, he would say, "Look over there," and shoot. We were defenseless. We had no arms. We had nothing. We had defenseless. They opened fire and killed 36 Ashraf residents and wounded hundreds.
Oh, did you see anyone in the camp at any time with weapons shooting at the soldiers?
No, from our Ashraf, no.
Yes.
We had no arms.
So you had no weapons whatsoever,
No.
and when the soldiers came into Camp Ashraf, they had armored vehicles. Is that correct?
The Iraqi forces came in with armored vehicles and were fully equipped.
Thank you, Nada. Appreciate the opportunity to ask you a couple of questions. I'm Ted Poe from Texas. The Iraqi government wants Camp Ashraf moved to another location. The Iranian government probably does as well. What would happen to the safety to the residents of Camp Ashraf if you were moved to some other location in Iraq?
Well, first of all, it's illegal for the Iraqi government to want such a thing, because under international law we cannot be transferred, expelled, or displaced to any other location, either inside Iraq or outside Iraq, against our own will. As we are protected persons under the 4th Geneva Convention, and we have signed an agreement with the U.S. forces in 2004, the responsibility for Ashraf residents until the final displacement is with the U.S. forces. Now, the issue about moving us to another part of Iraq, perhaps far from the border, this is just another pretext of another crime. Moving us somewhere far from the border, where we are far from international spotlight, is just like asking us to go to a concentration camp. And just allow me to say that this is to the demands of the Iranian regime. This is what the Iranian regime exactly wants, and we will never surrender to such a demand, to go to a concentration camp and be murdered far from international spotlight.
So would that jeopardize your safety?
Yes,
if you were
definitely.
moved to another location in Iraq?
Yes, definitely.
That jeopardizes safety?
Yes, definitely, because there is no guarantee that we have protection. If there is no if the U.S. forces cannot protect us, then we're going directly into the concentration camp at the will of the Iranian regime. And it's unacceptable.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I want to thank you very much for sharing your story with us, and the story of Camp Ashraf and this brutal massacre that took place. We appreciate, and Mr. Filner, do you have a couple of questions? I didn't see you over there. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say thank you for holding this hearing, allowing me to participate as a member of Congress. As you are well aware, because you have been there, there is a potentially much greater humanitarian disaster awaiting. And I think the United States has both the legal and the moral obligation to try to prevent that. And I thank you for holding this to put the spotlight. Too few Americans know what is going on there. And we thank you and Ashraf for testifying this morning. We all met your mom. She sends her love, obviously, and her concern mirrors that of millions of people in this country. So thank you for what you said. I just wanted to ask, by the way, did you or anybody at Ashraf try to get the Americans to respond to this attack that the Iraqis carried out?
Yes. Before I answer your question, excuse me, please, I say hello to my mother. I'm very happy that she's there. Hopefully I'll be able to speak to her soon. About the question that you asked, yes, I personally, through the Canadian consulate, asked to be transferred to Balad Hospital to receive better care. The Canadian consulate told me that they didn't accept. Also, through our liaison officer, we asked the American Embassy as well, but again, we were denied. I asked them for myself as well as for all of the other injured, because I'm sure you know there were about 340 injured, about 245 were shot or received injuries just like myself through a grenade explosion. from the beginning, we really needed medical attention, but unfortunately, they didn't accept to take us. However, they came to visit. They took 7 Ashraf residents, and you must understand that 7 out of 340 is a very, very low number. Yes, we asked for their help.
Did the Americans, did you ask them for help as the attack was occurring?
Oh, yes.
For some military intervention or some military protection as was promised and agreed to and signed by the American Army?
Yes. From every moment we had contact with the United States forces, with the embassy. In fact, from April 3rd, U.S. forces were here inside Ashraf because we saw the tanks that had entered, and we informed them that something is going to go on. We have to prevent it. But unfortunately, on April 7th, 9:20 p.m., Lieutenant Colonel Molinari, his unit was ordered out of the camp. That left us completely defenseless, vis-a-vis the massive assault by Iraqi forces.
This is very disheartening, especially, I think, Mr. Chairman, in this room, the Secretary of State a few months ago promised to protect the health and safety of the people in Camp Ashraf, and apparently that did not occur. And I think this Congress, with your leadership, needs to say more about that. We thank you. We're looking forward to your recovery, and we will do our best here in Congress to make sure that you are not forcibly dispersed, and that there is some protection for you in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't want to thank the young lady today for sharing with us your story. The visualization of you there just adds total credence to the harm and the suffering that people of Camp Ashraf have to face and are having to go through, and has been inflicted upon them in an intentional way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Please, I just wanted to add one more thing. I'm sure you understand that we are still worried about future attacks, of what's going to happen, and I really appreciate members of Congress, the support of the American people, especially yourself, Chairman Rohrabacher, as well as other members of the subcommittee, Ranking Member Carnahan, for all that you're doing right now.
We will now officially go into the hearing of this subcommittee. I call this hearing of the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee of the House Foreign Affairs Committee to open, and I will be having opening remarks. We will then have short opening remarks from members of the committee, and then we will go to our panel of witnesses. And I'm Congressman Dana Rohrabacher. I welcome you to this hearing.